And there we go. Good morning. Let's see if everything works. Okay. Perfect. Let's see here. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. So, as usual, before we start, is there any particular question you want to ask me? So that in the meantime I reset 3ds Max from scratch. Sorry. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Because in the meantime I can tell you my what we have to do today will be we have to see how to start working with lights. Good morning. But first thing that I want to show you today will be, for the first half of this class, I will show you how to import 3D objects inside 3ds Max. This would be and then we will see how to work with lights. Oh, and we won't see everything that we have to learn about lights today, because there's a lot of stuff that you should know about lights. So we will see first this part, and then how to start working with lights. Do you have any other, besides these things that are things that we are going to see today, do you have any other question, doubt, thing that you would like to ask me? Or not? You have 5 seconds more to check if you have questions. If not, I will start immediately by... No, there is the question. Can we directly? What it means directly? I mean, I showed you how to use AutoCAD. Okay, one by one. So can we directly import AutoCAD files into 3ds Max? Directly. It means that you can import DWG files, of course, yes. And if they are lines, they will be lines. No, drag and drop, not that I know. Drag and drop is for 3ds files, so that is what I will show you today. But for DWG, no, because for DWG there is a dialog box that contains a lot of informations about the way to translate a DWG into a 3ds Max file. So how many layers, the units and stuff like this. So about the DWG again. No, really? No. We'll see. Oh, I mean, it takes 3 seconds. So yes. But the other question says, I want to ask, are you telling midterms grade? If someone sends me an email asking me midterm grades, then I, according to how many emails I received, then slowly, but I answer by email about midterm grades. But you have to know that they were all good, and it is very time consuming to answer one by one midterm grades, because I receive daily hundreds of mails about projects and other things. But if you are interested, I mean, if you have no rush, most important, you just need to have no rush, send me an email, because of course I can tell midterms in a video, but by mail. Okay? And let's start by showing this. Yes, but send me an email, because I need your name, your class, and your email, so that I can find immediately your file and answer to your message. So let's see this quick thing that is your classmate asked just, can you please tell about DWG again? She probably forgot to write, that is because she wanted to say, can you please tell about DWG again, but super quickly. This is. So look here. First of all, when you work with DWG and 3ds Max, in 3ds Max you need to set your units, so you have to go to customize unit setup before importing any AutoCAD drawing. And these units can be whatever. It has to be the units that you want to use in 3ds Max. But set a working unit first. Then, in AutoCAD, we can do a lot of things. Let's say I would just make a very basic example where I have 2 layers. And I will make one layer white, one layer yellow. Then what I do is this. Look, as most of you, I will draw in millimeters. And I will use lines. And I will also use, like everyone does, that is, I will use trim, I will use, let's say, offset, 300, like this. I mean, nothing special, but this is like how a common AutoCAD drawing looks like. Okay, a drawing that is made by broken lines, nothing spectacular. Okay, and then let's say here there is a door. Perfect. Here I want to make a window. So in here and here another window. oops, I was moving my mouse by mistake. Perfect. Okay, in my next layer that has just another color, I draw instead a polyline. Close. Click, 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 right click, close. Perfect. So in here I'm using, okay, in here I just made a very basic drawing of a room in millimeters. So I click save, I save it into the desktop, I call it example, and there is another example, so example number 2. Look, you go to 3ds Max, you go to File, Import, Import, you look for your DWG, that is this one, example 2, you click open, and now you have to be extremely careful here, because first of all you need to specify which units has been used in AutoCAD. So I have to click Rescale, and from this menu I have to set which units I was using in AutoCAD, and I was using millimeters. Second part is I have to click this option here that is called Derive AutoCAD Primitives by, and I have to use by color. And this is crucial. Third thing that I have to do is this. Look, in, oops, don't mind about this, it's just because probably graphic card is a little bit too warm. So check this. In AutoCAD I have these objects that are beautiful closed polylines, while the rest of my drawing, that is another color by the way, is made like normally everyone used to do. That is, they are all independent open broken lines. So because I don't want to waste my time and using edit polyline, fix and things and so on, I would like to turn all of these broken lines into continuous polylines. So in 3ds Max I will do these by simply clicking the option called Weld Nearby Vertices. Okay? Last but not least is this. If in your AutoCAD you have a lot of layers and maybe you don't need to import everything that is into your layers, so for example importing dimensions, importing hatch, importing I don't know, text is something that doesn't make any sense in 3ds Max. If you need, you can also go to layers, click select from list, and you can choose which layer you want to import, which layer you don't want to import. In my case I will select both. Okay, but these are steps to correctly import AutoCAD drawings. So rescale and set the units, color, weld nearby vertices, and if needed you can choose only those layers that you want to import. You click OK, and bim bada boom, you have all of your beautiful shapes connected by colors. So whatever was white is one object, whatever was yellow is one object. So now I can quickly extrude all of my walls by going to modify, extrude, and you can see that they were broken lines in AutoCAD, but just by selecting the option called Weld Nearby Vertices, now they are closed shapes, so that when I extrude them, they are extruded like solid objects. These were already closed lines, so I extrude them, let's say 100, and maybe this 300, perfect. And then I can make shift and move up these things. I said shift and move. Perfect. I make copies so that I can change their height. Well, and then fantastic. And I start having my great looking AutoCAD drawing becoming my three-dimensional house. Okay? So this is how to deal with AutoCAD drawings, and let me close AutoCAD because it was about to crash also. Okay? Is it clear? Let's say yes. Because now you have to see something perfect. Thank you so much. So let's see now. Imagine that we have this, I would like to say beautiful, but honestly, this room is terrible. But let's say we have this house here. Let me change it a little bit because it is too narrow, and I would like to keep using it. So, okay, just like that. Okay, let's say we have this weird room in our project. I don't know why, but it is like that. And then we want to put furniture inside. We have two different paths to follow. Or we make our furniture by ourselves. That is always good. But sometimes we are in a rush, or sometimes we find that we want to use a commercial model, so something that is already existing. So instead of making a 3D model from scratch, we can download it. Most important is that we can't use basically same files that we were using in AutoCAD, because in AutoCAD maybe we have used 2D blocks, but in 3ds Max they must be 3D blocks. So what I will have to do is I have to go to specific websites where I can download the pre-made 3D objects. There are a ton of these websites. I will show you one just because this is 100% for free, and this one is called archive3d.net. archive3d.net, it is for free. It has all objects divided into categories that you can find on the right of your interface. And for example, let's download something that I haven't downloaded in my previous class. Let's see, let's go to companies and collection, so that we have realistic pieces. Also, if you don't find things in here, you can also search in this top panel. And I like this one, but let's just click on a random piece. Then don't worry, because I will give you the link of the exact object that I'm using. Let's see. No, this one. This is better. Okay. So let's say we want to use this bed in our project, and look, I will also copy and paste the link of this object if you want to really follow my exact steps in using this exact object inside your project. Okay? So first thing that I have to do is, obviously, I have to download it. So I click download, of course, yes, and I will save this file. This file will be a zip file, so it is an archive that contains several informations. Okay, so let's see what I have. If I go on my download folder, this is the file that I have downloaded. And because for me it makes no sense having a file called 6F8 E7 and whatever, I will right click, rename it, and I will call it bed. And this is first. When a file is zipped, no matter what is inside, but you can't use directly elements that are inside your zip file, what you have to do is you have to extract it first. So you have to right click on the file that you have downloaded, and you have to use the option called extract all. In this way, Windows will create a new folder called with the same name of your file, and this is why I have renamed it, and I click extract. Perfect! And this is the folder that contains whatever I have downloaded from my beautiful website. There are textures, there are files, there are preview, so this is just a preview that is how my bed should look like. But most important, and the only file that we need to start dealing with, is the file that has this extension here. That is the file .3ds. Okay? Can you see it? Oops. So now, yes, now that we have downloaded this file, this is an operation that will happen by using drag and drop. So the 3ds file can be dragged and dropped from the folder that we have downloaded to our project. So where is here, sorry. So what I have to do is very simple, that is, I will select from the folder that I have extracted my 3ds file, I drag and drop it, and I release it inside my 3ds Max viewport, and I will left click and I will place my imported file inside my project in this way. Okay? And let's see, I will just move it a little bit in here, and we have our file. But we have a huge problem when we use someone else's file. That is, we have no idea how big this thing is. So, second step you have always to do, just right after drag and dropping your file, is because when you drag and drop it and you left click your file, even if it is made by several parts, it is entirely selected. First immediate step that you have to do is you have to go to group and you have to make a group, so that even if our file that we have imported is made by several pieces, we'll call it bed. But now this, for 3ds Max, this will be one object only. Okay? And this is first step that I have to do. And okay. And this is first. Second of all, I need to fix another problem, because you can probably see that it looks like the house where I was working before is gone. In reality, it is not gone. The house is there, but there is a problem. The problem is that this bed is huge and is not at all following dimensions that I'm using in my project. There are units, the units that are centimeters. So, see this phenomenal way to work. I don't know actually with which dimension this bed has. So what I will do is, after making it as a group, I go to my command panel and I open utilities. In my utilities, I have to select my group and I have to select the utility that is called measure. This one. Why this? Simply because if I scroll down, measure utility shows me in real time which are dimensions in X, Y, and Z of my group. Okay? So, can you see this bounding box around my group? Basically, dimensions that I read here are dimensions of these bounding box. That is a little bit weird because in here I have no stuff, but I don't know why the guy who has made this bed has put something transparent in here, but at least I can understand that this that is aligned to the Y, this should be the width of my bed. So, check this. If I want my bed to be 90 centimeters large, what I will do is simply this. I keep my measure utility active, I click scale, and I will simply start scaling my bed by being sure that I'm scaling all 3 axes at the same time. But when I do this, I can see that dimensions are changing in real time. So I will keep scaling this bed until its y dimension, that is the width, matches the size that I want, that is 90. I'm almost there. Perfect. 90, sorry, 90.3. Boom. That's it. I can only see that now my bed is just somewhere lost in the viewport. So I select move, and in these 3 numeric fields, just to place my imported bed back to the center of my viewport, I click move, take care, and I type 0 for x, 0 for y, 0 for the z, and if I click here, there is zoom extents, I will see where my bed has been placed, that is here, close to the center. I mean, it's not close, it is into the center of my viewport, that is where my house was. I just move it a little bit up. Perfect! And I have my phenomenal bed, 90 centimeters large, imported into my project. Okay? But now we have to fix something more, that is, first of all, our bed was looking a lot better into the preview, so why it is looking so ugly now. So after importing it and after scaling it, we need to adjust materials that are applied on this box, on this bed. And how? It's not that hard, but check this. So before I show you materials, it is clear what I've done till now or not? Let me check. Perfect. That is. Yes. Can we can scale it on a specific land. It will take forever. But if you don't really need it, honestly, but if you want to know, the answer is yes. So look, let me select something very basic like this, just because it will be faster. So I save this model. It's taking forever. Okay. So give me a second. Okay, so I rename it to table. Right click, extract all. And again, I want to use this table in my project. So I go to the folder and I drag and drop this 3ds file. Okay. This is the opposite. This object is probably too small. But again, I just follow always same steps. I import it, boom, group it. And instead not. This is actually like a coffee table, but it's okay. Let's pretend we want this to be like a dinner table, so we want to make it larger. We want to specify that the Z, so the height, should become 78 centimeters. Okay? So look what you have to do. you have to use your calculator. And doesn't matter if you want to make it bigger or smaller, you need always to follow this operation. That is, you need to divide the dimension that you have and the dimension that you want. But how? What you have to do is, you want your table to be 78 centimeters tall, so you have to divide dimension that you want by the dimension that you have, and the result must be multiplied by 100, because 3ds Max, when you scale, it uses percent. So this is why you have to make this extra step. So into my calculator, I will do 78 is the dimension that I want, divided by 40, and I want to be very picky, 0.001, that is actual dimension, and it has this final result, but I have to multiply by 100, so I click multiplied 100. This number here is the number that I should use to scale my table so that it will be 78 centimeters tall. So, check this. I select my group, that is my table. I click scale, and now that I have clicked scale, if I type in here, I won't type the position of my object, but the scaling of my object. So I will write in here 194.995, and I don't remember other numbers, but I press enter. Boom! And now look at the Z of my object. It is exactly the value that you wanted. Okay? So this is if you want to scale an object and you want to obtain a very precise result. Let me tell you, this is a waste of time, because if I want it 78 and I have measure, I quickly scale it. When I see 78, I stop here. And because 3ds Max is about rendering, it is not about making technical drawing, now that my table is 78.7, so it is 7 millimeters taller than that precise number that I was thinking, believe it or not, it doesn't change anything. So all those calculations here that I've made before, from my point of view, they're just a waste of time. It will make using 3ds Max over complicated. Okay? But technically you can. So I don't use them, but technically it is possible. So let's go back to our bed, because first of all, it looks great. Oops. But it has a problem. When we have downloaded, it has we have seen that it had a beautiful Mondrian blanket, it has a certain wood, it has pillows. I mean, it was a lot better than this kind of white neutral thing. So let's see how to fix materials in here. First of all, I have to open my material editor, so I will select M. And let's start with the blanket here. So what I have to do in my material editor is, for the first time, I have to use this tool here. That looks like the eyedrop tool in Photoshop. This tool here is called Pick Material from Object. So basically what I can do is, because I don't know which material it is applied or if there is any material applied to the blanket, what I can do is I click this button, I then pick on my blanket, and I load, and I have this error message that is correct, and I load the material that is applied to the object in my material editor. And as you can see, this is everything except for nice looking, because everything is looking black. And right now, even if I click render, my bed will look black. And this is why. Simply because 3ds Max doesn't know where textures that the original person has applied to the material, where they are. So how to fix it is too simple. Look, in here we can see that the blanket has two materials. It has something called silk and something called fabric. It simply says that we are selecting a material from a group, so even materials are grouped together, nothing special. But we need instead to see it here. In here we see bitmap, and technically we should see the preview of our material. This is black simply because 3ds Max doesn't know from where we have to load the material. So to fix it, I will simply select the material, select the bitmap. I will double click it, and I will see that the picture that was applied to this material is this one. It's called Tora _ SML JPEG. So I will click where I see the name, and I browse the folder where I have extracted my bed. Let's see if there is something called Tora SML. It is this one. I click open, boom, and this material will start working again. And I do the same thing in here. So this black bitmap, I double click, I see that it's called picture 7, so I click the name, I browse my computer to the same folder, picture 7 is this one, double click it, it's okay, and I fixed this. This material has also bump, as you can see, and here is black, so I double click in here. This is called picture 7 again. It is a little bit wrong, but it's okay. And I keep doing this for all my missing materials. Boom! And I have fixed the blanket. If I'm right, I can select the material, click it, show material, and I can show on all of groups. Same thing for these, show, okay. And if I'm right, this material should appear in my bed. Let's see, Let's see. Let's see. Yes. Look at that. And your blanket has material fixed. Okay? And show even this one. Okay. And show here. And it has also the inside. And you have to keep doing this for all other components. So in here there should be wood. So I open my material editor, pick material from scene. So I pick wood and structure. Again, it says, look, there is something missing, but I know this is why I want to fix it. So I double click on the picture that is black. I can see the name. I click on the name. I know that is missing. Here I see my history, so I quickly go to bad folder. And this one is called the VO16 SML, so I select this one. Boom! Make my material visible, and wooden part has been fixed. Fantastic, isn't it? And I will do the same thing for pillows, for the mattress. I mean, go here, pick the mattress material. It is this textile thing. So double click. I know that is missing. It is called the this one. And this one the same. Okay. Show it. Boom. And we fixed it. So, yes, we can. This is how to fix the object, but technically, instead, if we want, we can apply whatever other material other than the one that is applied by default, for sure. I mean, if we don't like this fabric here, the only thing that we have to do is this is how to fix it, but if we want, we have to simply open the group so that we can select independent parts of our object. Go to the material editor. Let's say for my pillows I want another fabric. So this one, like plaid red, I place it on the editor. I make it visible, and then now that the group has been opened, and I opened the group because if not, if I apply the material, I will apply to the entire bed, but then I can drag and drop this material to this pillow only. Okay? And because I've scaled my material, probably I have to scale the UVW map as well, or do something that will change your life forever, that is. Because I don't want to change the way that the material is applied, I just want to make it bigger or smaller, I can select the pillow, and I will apply this very basic modifier called map scaler, and I will decrease this number. Let's see. I think yes, it has to be a little bit bigger. Exactly. So with these, I can simply change the size of the material without changing the UVW map orientation. Okay, but I can apply whatever material I want with no issues at all. I can change them all. I can even convert to editable poly, and I can give half of the structure a material, but whenever I'm done, I select the group and I have to close it so that the bed will remain one object only. Okay? Was this the question? In the meantime, I read also, how can we add texture in a material, like if it is concrete? I've explained last week the material property that is called bump. Bump is the parameter to add what you call like the texture in a material. So with a picture in like this one, look. This material has a picture for the color itself, but it has a black and white picture into the bump, so that it makes the surface of our material not looking perfectly flat, but it adds that roughness in your final material. Is this the question? Is this what you want to know? When you say roughness into concrete, it is just a black and white picture applied into the bump. Yes, I will show you one example, because this is what you need to know about using 3D objects. No, wait, there is one last thing that I want to show you. That is this. Look, if I go to default shading and I go to edged faces, I want to show you this. I want to show you that this object has an infinite amount of polygons. And if you start using objects like these in 3ds Max, it happens that after 1 or 2 or 3 objects that has so many polygons, it will happen that your file will become so heavy that you can't even use it. Okay? And what you should do will be, you have to start and you should do it, I'm so sorry, you should do it before fixing materials, but it's okay, just forgot. To make this object a little bit easier for your computer to be managed, you need to use a modifier that is called Pro Optimizer. Pro Optimizer will do this. Look, you apply these or to certain parts or to the entire object. You apply it and then you click Calculate. Okay? And it should be done before fixing material. So sorry. So I will also click Keep Textures. No, I mean, you can just click Keep Texture to avoid fixing twice materials. But most important is this. After clicking Calculate, so first click Keep Texture and then click Calculate. See this. What you can do is you can start decreasing the amount of vertices so that your object will keep at 0 is a little bit too much. But like this. Let's say 30%. So in this way, what happens is that your object will remain more or less the same. It may look a little bit of detail, but for sure it will have a lot less vertices and a lot less polygons, and this will be crucial for 3ds Max to work, because in 3ds Max what makes the file heavy is not the number of objects but the number of polygons. So you can have a lot of objects with a low amount of polygon and it will work, as well as having one object with an infinite amount of polygon and 3ds Max will crash. So if you experience that your computer is going terribly slow, start using Pro Optimizer and start decreasing unwanted segments. And again, you can use it piece by piece or to the entire group. For example, for this part, I can recalculate this part only, just to show you, so that this won't affect other elements. But you can see that the same amount of optimization is good for the head of the bed and not for the blanket. So probably for an object like this, I will apply Pro Optimizer piece by piece rather than applying it to the entire object to have better looking results. Okay? And now this is a little bit too much, so let's go back to 35% so that you still have your material, your objects, but instead of having 112,000 faces, 350,000 faces, you have 112,000 faces. That is a lot less. Reducing vertices won't affect slightly, yes, but you need to understand how much you can go down, you can go low. So let's say I can make it 60%. But then if this bed, let me tell you, in my picture is there, so when I render, the bed is far from my point of view, believe it or not, I could go even lower than that and you will never see the difference because the object is very far from my point of view. So I can use Pro Optimizer and keeping it very low according to this view. Then I can change my point of view and I will make this rendering. And maybe I will increase or even hide for this view the Pro Optimizer effect so that my bed will look perfect. Then I change my point of view and again I open Pro Optimizer to make it in low resolution. So I can always choose when to use it and when not to use it. But if I have this view and this object is not optimized, I will just use a lot of memory for no reason. Okay? Sorry. Is it clear? Till here? Perfect. So now let's move on to something that is even more fantastic. That is, let's see, lights. And let me delete this. Sorry. Close. Let's keep just the table. Okay. So I will finish, quickly this house by placing floor and a ceiling. Okay. And let's see this. Now that we know that we can add furniture or even model our furniture, we need to start discovering lights. Lights in 3ds Max are, again, a little bit complex, nothing impossible to be learned, but they have a lot of elements to be learned, so I will explain certain elements today and other next Monday. First of all, what we need to see is this. Lights are objects that we have to create in 3ds Max. So, we can find tools to create lights by going into the Create tab and by going to the family that is called Lights. Here. And what you have to do is, you can see that there are 3 buttons here. Today we will start viewing only free light. Then we will see also what these 2 other buttons are about. But first thing first is I will click free light. And I will, with one left click, I will place my free light somewhere into my project. I start by placing it outside the project itself. Okay? Then, only because I honestly don't know which material were used for the table, and also because my house is blue right now, to make my life easier for now, I will delete all these materials. And like I've explained last week, I will quickly make a physical material and I will apply to all of my objects for now, but I want to make it white. So I select my material. I make it white, the parameter that is called base color. And also I will make roughness 1 so that it will be matte, and if I click render it won't take a lifetime to render, and I will simply select everything and I will apply my material to all of my objects. This is not mandatory, but this is just to quickly make all my objects white so that I can show you the behavior of light in a faster way. But ready for this? Look, we have a house, there is a table, where there is a light, and see this. I click render into my main toolbar and I will see an image that will be pretty different from what I see into the viewport. So can you see that here it is darker, there are shadows, this part of the house is dark, this is bright, and so on and so on. So it also happens, look, that if I move the light in reality, and let's say if I place it inside my room, if I render again, look how different it is what I have into my rendering from what I see into the viewport. Working with lights in this way is something that is not really productive. What I want to show you is, I want to show you an adjustment that you can do to your viewport in order to see light behavior in real time. How can we fix the granulation? Granulation is called noise rather than granulation. That is nice as a word. And it is just a parameter that you have to set in your render settings. That is, you go to your render setup from here, or from rendering, render setup. You go to art renderer, and you have to do two adjustments that I won't do because I want to make quick renders just to show you some examples. But to remove the noise, you should put this indicator to high, that is the render quality. You have to enable noise filtering and put it to 75%. Okay? Why I don't do this? Simply because by increasing these two parameters and by adding the noise filter, when you click render, the render will take longer. And I don't simply not doing it because we have to stay in front of the screen watching rendering forever. Okay? So you can do it in your laptops, and you should do it only when you are planning to make your final renders. But for sure I will go back to my draft quality renders immediately. But you can see that the render quality is a little bit better. Also, this is overexposed, so this won't be super clean, but and then it has to remove the noise, but it's taking forever, so I will click stop. You can do it if you want, but I will go back to my granular rendering. Okay? But it is this. There are these two parameters, render quality and noise filter. But let's see this instead. You can see that even if I set these things, my rendering and what I see into the viewport are completely different. So check this. In your viewport, you should do this first. You click this middle word between perspective and, we don't even need edge faces here. Between perspective and default shading. You see standard. You left click there. You go to lighting and shadows. And you set the option called illuminate with scene lights. So you have to check this option. And we start viewing that if I move the light, woohoo! Now it works. But not really well, because if I am here outside the wall, I can see that the house is still receiving light. While this is not possible, that should be shadows. Or if I put my light in here, I can see that underneath the table there is light, while there should be shadows. So second adjustment that I will do into my viewport is, again, I click this option in the middle, where I go again to lighting and shadows, and I check shadows. So at the end of this operation, your viewport should be set exactly like you see into the screen right now. It should be lighting and shadows, illuminate with scene lights, and shadows. Okay? You must select both of these two parameters in order to correctly work with lights in your viewport. Okay? Can you do this? Did you find these two parameters or not? Tell me yes, tell me something. Yes, no, maybe. What is ambient occlusion? How can I explain it? Ambient occlusion is this. In real world, light has a more complex behavior than what is in 3ds Max. So in real life, what you can notice is that whenever there are objects that are close to each other, even if they are hit by light, in real time there are small shadows whenever there is a corner. So in real life it happens this. Look, if I move this light in here, you can see that, for example, in the corner between the wall and the floor, everything is white. In real life, this doesn't happen, and not even into renderings, because there is a behavior of light that is called direct light and indirect light. That is, light bounces infinite times on all of your objects. So in reality it happens that in here, there will be a small, oops, is completely off. In reality here, there will be, maybe with these two, it makes more sense. Not this one, sorry, this one. Okay. And then black. Yes. In reality, in here, there will be a very soft shadow, even if it is hit by light. And that is called, translated in computer graphic world, as ambient occlusion. That is the shadow that appears when there are objects close to each other. When you make the rendering, it is calculated, but if you want, you can also preview the ambient occlusion in your viewport. It makes everything a lot heavier, and you need to see these. But can you see these extra darker shadow here into corners? And if I have a lot of objects like these, it happens that I won't see only the shadow that they project, but down here I should start viewing this black preview of the ambient occlusion. But I mean, it is just a thing that you can enable or not into the viewport, because when I will render, the ambient occlusion is correctly calculated, and it will show you, I mean, it's a little bit far, but it will show you that even if here the original shadow is this one, you can also see that below the teapot, so where is that angle, the surface between the teapot and the floor, there is also this darker additional shadow. Or in here you can see a small shadow where the handle is attached to the body, and so on and so on. So it is an extra detailed shadow, but it is calculated into the rendering. I don't suggest to enable it into the viewport just because it overloads your graphic card as preview, so I don't always set it. Okay? But now see this. Now that we have correctly set our viewport, we can see that whenever we move the light, we don't even need to click rendering to understand how the light is going to work, because our preview shows us immediately the result. So now we can instead go and into the Modify tab, and let's see which are useful parameters that we need to know about a light. There are many of these. Today we will see only a few of them. Starting from, you're welcome. Starting from shadows. Shadows must be exactly like you see in these settings. So shadows must be on. This is crucial, I would say. And shadows must be set as they are here. That is, oops, no, this one. Ray traced. It doesn't exist a light in reality that will never drop shadows, as well as it doesn't exist a light that is not ray traced. What it means? It simply means this. A ray traced shadow is a shadow that is created by reading the geometry of an object plus the material of an object. So if I have an object in my scene that is like that, and it is made in glass, if I correctly use ray traced shadows, I will see a barely visible transparent shadow projected on the floor. But if I don't use these parameters, if I use shadows off, is even worse, because I don't even see shadows projected, so this object will fly. And if I don't have ray traced set, it would be even more awkward, because my glass panel will project a deep black shadow like it is an opaque object. Again, this would be wrong. So these are parameters that you have to keep for shadows. They must be like this. Shadows always on, shadow always ray traced. This is like that. Then let's see other parameters, and here the thing becomes a little bit more complex, because Second parameter that we need to discover is the one that is called light distribution. Light distribution is simply the way that 3ds Max define the direction that light has from this object, that is where we have placed our light. By default, each time that we create a new light, this parameter is called uniform spherical. That means from our light source, like a sphere, light is projected on all possible directions. It is projected to the right, to the left, in front, to the back, down, up, and in all other possible directions in 3D. This is not always fine because maybe we don't want to simulate these kind of lamps that, by the way, it is fine if we want to simulate this lamp. A bulb lamp is a perfect example of a uniform spherical light. And a light that is almost spherical because it is attached here, but this is quickly considered a uniform spherical light. Sometimes we don't want these, and we want something that at least that can have a bit more of a direction, and a very common example of another kind of light can be the LED. An LED is something that is connected to a structure where wires are, and light is created in here if we have an LED. So the distribution is not a full sphere of light, but it is half sphere of light with this kind of distribution. And if we want to simulate LED lights, we need to change our distribution from the one that is called uniform spherical to the one that is called uniform diffuse. Uniform diffuse, as I said, sets your shape of light into half sphere, and you can see that the top of my room is not receiving illumination. And now, for example, it makes also sense not only the fact that I can move my light, but it also makes sense the fact that I can start rotating light to select which side I want light, where I want to keep it dark. So basically where I want to orient my light source. Okay? And this distribution is called uniform diffuse. This is not the only, these are not the only possibilities that you have. There are more distribution types. I want to explain just one more, even if there is an additional one. I want to explain only the one that is called spotlight, that will basically be in a way to project light that enhance the fact that you have a directional light, So this will make your light source being a perfect cone of light, where your light is vertex of this cone, that is from where light has been projected. And again, you can both move your light, and again, even now, it makes a lot more sense to rotate the light to project it where we want. You know, like we are using a torch, or in general those spotlights that we can find attached to ceilings and stuff like this. And what is interesting about spotlight is that only if we are using spotlight, we are also able to change the width of our spotlight, because automatically when we change our distribution type to spotlight, and only in that case, there is an additional parameter that appears that is called light cone. And into the in this area, so where we find written light cone, what we can read is that there is this number called hotspot, and the number below that is called fall off. They work in this way. First makes center part of our light, so the one where there is light, larger or narrower. Fall off instead sets how large will be blurred edges of this light, so how basically light goes from light to darkness. If these two values are very close to each other, I will have a light with these hard edges, or if fall off is very large, I will have a spotlight with soft edges. Okay? And this is what spotlight does, and what these two numbers are. But when I change it from spotlight, let's say back to uniform spherical, don't freak out. But this menu will disappear, because this is appearing only because we click spotlight. Okay? Till here? Let me see. Till here? Yes? No? Maybe? Probably? Let's see your feedback first. No feedback. Oh, perfect. Ah, oh yes, of course. Look. Look. When I create a light and I click free light, my light is always a spherical, uniform spherical light. This happens by default. This is the way that 3ds Max create a lights. And a spherical light means that it projects lights wherever. But if I want, I can select my light, change the parameter that is called the distribution to the one that is called the spotlight. So I change it into spotlight, and the light becomes a cone of light. Okay? And while the sphere has nothing to be set additionally to the fact that it has a spherical distribution, when I use the cone, I can change this aspect. So I can say that this right now is my cone of light that has inner part, this inner cone. This one is called hotspot. And you can also see that inside this cone light is just white, but then from these light fades out and it becomes darker after this secondary cone, there is this one, I can clearly see that there is no more light. So this second cone is called fall off. So what I can change only when I change my distribution to spotlight is I can make this one wider or narrower to have less or more fading area of my spotlight, and this is the fall off, as well as I can change this inner cone to make, just change the color, to make this part narrower or wider, and this is the hotspot. So if I want, I can simply change in here. The hotspot, that is the area where my light is brighter, and I can change fall off so that I can have a spotlight with hard edges. So basically it is bright and then suddenly boom, dark. Or I can have a spotlight with a bigger fall off cone so that I have light and it gently fades away in a more soft way. Okay? Was it clear? Yes? No? Maybe? Tell me. Let's see. I'm waiting. Also, for today, I want to show you just two simple things more, and then it will be fine, so that you can start making perfect. You can start making practice. So, let me show you last two things for today. One is very simple, and it is this. When you make a light, you can also change the color of light, and the color of light is immediately underneath the distribution, and the color of light can be changed in multiple ways, but there are two ways that are so easy to be used that I need to explain both. There are these. Way number one is if you want to be extremely precise and you want to simulate a certain existing light, you can read from light specs, so you can read the technical specifications, and you can find a value that is called color temperature of light. Color temperature is a value that is described with a unit that is called Kelvin degrees. So it should be written like this. It should be called Kelvin with these, that means degrees. In general, you just find a number and the letter K next to it. So if you want to change the color and you want to really use a realistic color of light, let's see this. In 3ds Max, below in the distribution, you find color. You check the option called Kelvin, and then magically this number next to Kelvin becomes a number that you can edit. So Kelvin, I don't know if you know, is a value that goes in general from 8,000 to 10,000. And basically when the lower Kelvin degrees is, the more on the red the light goes, the higher Kelvin is, the more on the blue the light color goes. And if you don't know which one you have to use, you can always read technical informations about lights. And for example, say this. I just opened this into a previous class, but look at this. Let's say I want to use this simple lamp. That is actually a spotlight that so it has a distribution of light that is a cone, even if it has this shape, but it is a spotlight. Then I don't know, for example, the color of this one, but let's say I want to say to my client that in my project I'm going to use LED reflector from Philips. Perfect. Let's see how they work. So I go to the specifications. Into the specifications, I need to find light parameters, and I will need to find this one, the one that is called color temperature, that is called, and it is defined as 2700 K. So if I want really to use this into my project, what to do will be I set Kelvin, I change this number, I type 2700, boom, and this is how yellow that light will be. Okay? This is the real color that light will be. And you can clearly understand why it is called that warm white, because it has this kind of cozy color that is more than warm white. I will say that this is yellow as a light, but the light will really project this color. Okay? And this is not technically the only way, while it is the more accurate, because whenever you download or you use light, you can find, even when you buy a lamp and you watch what is written, you read what is written into the box, you always read which kind of color temperature it has. But sometimes we want to do something more. For example, it is pretty common to have LED lights that are called RGB light. So they have a wider spectrum of colors because they can't just be warm white or cool white if I increase this parameter, no? Because if I make it like 6500K, that is a pure white color, okay? But if I want, let's say, for this light to be purple, so to have a color that will give me a nice effect, in 3ds Max I can always filter my light. So basically, like placing a transparent piece of glass in front of my lamp. So what I can do is, if I don't use any particular Kelvin degrees, I can click on filter color and I can give my light whatever RGB color that I want. I said I wanted purple, so I filter my light with this saturated color, and you will see that the light projected by this spotlight won't be white, but it will be this purple magnificent color. Okay? And I can be in this way free to use whatever kind of color I have in mind. By changing the filter color, I can change the brightness of the color, so I can also make it darker. I can change the hue of the color. Okay? And I can really simulate something like RGB strips, RGB lights, projectors that you find into the disco, no? Like if you do like this, like boom, 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 boom. And you can make whatever light color that you have in mind. And this is why. Simply because lights in a project will give the atmosphere of your project. So let's say you can add like a LED light. Let's make it uniform diffuse. But look, I will rotate it down. And let's say I will put this light underneath the table. I will just make it darker. Perfect. Then I can have in my project several spotlights, and maybe in here I have to work in floor plan, sorry, so I press Alt W because I want to see in floor plan where my lights are placed. But look, lights are like whatever other object in 3ds Max. So not only I can place them and create them, move them, rotate them, but I can also shift and move them. And I can make instances, I can make copies. So right now I'm making several instances of this light. But then, look, I will make a copy here. And you will see why. I make copies, and then instance again, so that basically here. So what I have done is simply I have made shift and move, but I've made this. From here to here to here, they are all instance. here I have made a copy, and then from here to here to here I have made other instance. So basically what happens is that these lights are all instances, but they are different from these. But then these lights are all instances. So I've made like two groups of light. And in this way, I just press Alt W again to maximize my viewport. So now what I have is that, let's say I will filter left group and I will make them I don't know, green, and only left lights will be green, and I can instead select whatever of my right light and I will make them blue, and I have, maybe I should just raise them up. There is one light that I haven't selected. No, them all. Okay. And I will move them up. Perfect. Look what a great room I have created in this way. I have green spotlights on one side, I have blue spotlights on the other side, I have a purple LED light underneath the table. I will just move the table a bit so that it will go also a little on this wall, and I can start placing lights, not only just because in 3ds Max I have to make lights, but I can make something called like light design. I can give a certain mood to my project, a certain atmosphere, a certain kind of effect, and so on and so on. Then I can change lights as many times that I want when I want to simulate other effects, and so on and so on. Okay? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. I know, it is amazing. It is amazing. When you know that you can also make lights, and if you think about the whole package of 3ds Max now, that is 3D modeling combined to materials, combined with lights, it is a very interesting tool to turn your creations into something that is visible and that you can share with other people. So you have 3 seconds to let me know if you have a question. If not, I will go to prepare lunch. And by the way, today we will stop here so that you can make practice, work on your final project. Let me know then. By next week I would like to see if you have started making your final project, if you have made some kind of sketches, preliminary ideas, and question about final project. 3 seconds. Hurry up. Oh, we are supposed. No, only for the final project I want only a presentation with your basic concept, your inspiration explained, and renderings, but not the original 3ds Max file. That would be too heavy to be uploaded. So just presentation. Okay? So it has to be something like with your name, the architect or designer you are inspired by. If you have made some sketches, if not, it's not important. And then 6 renders. I have not, unfortunately, with me examples of previous exams because they are at school. If during these weeks I will be allowed to open the school, I will go there. I will turn on the server and I can take some examples to show you examples, but don't ask them now because I have not them with me. Okay? Was it clear? Perfect. Perfect. So, this is it for today. I will stop live stream now. So, thanks for following me, and we will see basically next week Monday when I will keep explaining lights. I will explain more parameters of lights. I will show you also how to make natural sunlight. And if you have something for your projects, upload it on the server and then let me know so that I will check it. And for now, let's see next week Monday. Okay? Perfect. Bye everyone. It has been a pleasure, and as usual, have fun, not too much. Bye.